Welcome to another edition of the Inspired Stories podcast, where leaders share their experiences so we can learn from their successes and be inspired by how they've overcome adversity. My name is Anthony Codaspoti, and today's guest is Alvaro Fraile. Alvaro is the CEO of Azul Hospitality, a Southern California-based operator that manages lifestyle hotels and destination resorts. They offer full-service hospitality solutions, including strategic marketing, food and beverage programming, and revenue optimization. He's originally from Spain and came to the U.S. for college, playing soccer at the University of Richmond while studying business. His hospitality journey began at AC Hotels, a Spanish brand later acquired by Marriott, where he rapidly advanced through the ranks. Starting as a junior revenue manager, he became a general manager by 25, a regional leader by age 27, and was running operations for 70 hotels across Spain, Italy, and Portugal by age 30. After helping launch AC Hotels in the U.S. and working with Marriott for 8 years, he joined Azul Hospitality as COO. And after 2 years in that role, he had the opportunity to become CEO, the position that he holds today. Now, before we get into all that good stuff, today's episode is brought to you by my company, Add-Back Benefits Agency, where we offer very specific and unique employee benefits that are both great for your team and fiscally optimized for your bottom line. Now, imagine being able to give your hotel employees free access to doctors, therapists, and prescription medications. Okay, here's the fun part. The program actually puts more money into your employees' pockets. And the companies too. One recent client was able to increase net profits by $900 per employee per year. Now, results vary for each company. Some organizations may not be eligible. To find out if your company qualifies, contact us today at addbackbenefits.com. All right, back to our guest today, the CEO of Azul Hospitality Group, Alvaro. Thanks for making the time to share your story today.
Anthony, thanks for the invite. I'm honored, looking forward to our chat. And if we can help make somebody's day better or feel a bit more inspired, then it'll be a good use of our time. So
I love that.
To it.
Love that attitude. Let's jump right into it then, Alvaro. So you came from Spain to play soccer and study at the University of Richmond. And we have to point out this is a little bit unique because in Spain, if you're pursuing soccer on a serious level, that often meant stopping your education to focus completely on soccer. So how did your sort of non-traditional decision to come to the U.S., you think, impact your life's trajectory?
For sure. So at the time, I thought I wanted to keep my option open of becoming a professional. Little did I know that I probably couldn't make it, but at the time I thought so. So I wanted to keep my options open. And in Spain, I think it's probably the same all of Europe. You start early on if you want to be an athlete, and the path to professionalism is not through college. It's just you quit college, you go to one of the academies of the big teams. And so coming to the US was the way to keep both options open. I think my parents were very focused on me studying no matter what. And then, unbelievable experience, incredible resources here in the US and just an unbelievable college experience. And then, absolutely shaped everything in the future because suddenly I'm living in a different country, opening my mind to a different culture and customs and traditions and ways of thinking. And it surely shaped my openness to things and to people. And so great experience and probably opened the door for me to come back in my second stint after when I joined Marriott. So much more open to it because I had the 4 years at the University of Richmond.
How was your English when you first came here?
It was good because I was going to an English school, a British school, but my accent was very posh. So it definitely, the first few years I got made fun of a lot, and I think automatically it started to change to become more American.
So was that a conscious effort to change from? No, it just kind of happened. Because
No.
usually when you're at that age, right, it's hard for an accent to change or to drop.
Yeah, I had never lived in the UK, so it was just from going to a British school.
Okay.
So I guess it was still held, not so tightly, so it could easily morph to the American one.
All right, fair enough. Okay, so as I understand it, though, when you took your first job in hospitality, that wasn't really your passion. What was that early experience? And then at what point down the road did you see the potential in and kind of get excited about the space?
Yeah, so I was doing business just to keep my options open because I hadn't defined my passion. So that's what I did for my undergrad. And um, I took the first job I found out of college, honestly, and it was revenue manager at the AC hotels. And at the time, I didn't know much about hotels, and it was, well, we'll take the first job and see where it takes me. I had done a little internship at Morgan Stanley in investment banking and realized it wasn't really my thing. So this was just trying out a new thing. And I guess it was being the right place at the right time. AC, the gentleman that founded it, had sold a previous hotel chain, so he had a lot of resources. He had a lot of energy. He's a big businessman in Spain, and so we had funds, and he had already experienced it, so he had the knowledge to just grow very fast. And so joining a company like that was incredible for my first experience because we were opening a ton of hotels every year, owned by us at the time, or by him, but by the company, and managed by us, and the brand was ours. And so there was nothing stopping us from growth, and it was just so dynamic that it captivated me. And the other thing is, even though I had a pretty reasonable academic background, it's an industry where you can be kind of whatever you want. You see people that are. I remember the CEO of Marriott Europe. He started as a cook at the time. At the time that when I was there in Europe, Rainer Sashaw, he was the president of Marriott Europe. He started as a cook and then a chef and then a director of food and beverage. So no matter your background, your academic background, your socioeconomic background, you can really do very well in the hospitality industry. And that was super exciting. It's very, very dynamic.
I've heard so many people come on this show and say the same thing about the restaurant space and the hotel space. It's a place where certainly an academic background can be helpful, right? You come in with some education there, but it's not necessary, right? All kinds of folks come in and they couldn't afford, college education. Maybe it just wasn't for them. And they come in, they work hard, they, show that they're dedicated and they've got the personality and they want to apply themselves. And then you can just rise through the ranks and make a really good career for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. A lot of the experience that you get operationally is having worked those jobs, right, at the hotel level. And those jobs normally start either at the front desk or in the kitchen, or you don't need that academic education to get started in those jobs. So if you have you're somewhat capable of learning from those experiences and obviously work hard, there's just the potential, sky's the limit there. So.
Yeah. So you did have the benefit of education, but even still, you came in like a rocket ship, right? So you went from junior revenue manager to running operations for 70 hotels across 3 countries by the age of 30. What was the key to this rapid rise for you, Alvaro?
I know this is going to sound very typical to say, but kind of the right place at the right time, because the company was growing so fast that suddenly we had hotel openings and it was much easier to promote within for the company. So suddenly I'm offered the opportunity to be a GM at 25, and I was obviously excited and jumping at the opportunity. And then eventually, oh, now we need, we're up to 20 hotels in Madrid, so we need a regional to oversee those properties. And I was doing well at my hotel, so I got the opportunity to be a regional overseeing those hotels. And then eventually, a couple of years later, the director of operations for the whole company was doing a horizontal move within the company. So who's the next guy? And the company was based in Madrid, so being the regional of the Madrid region allowed me that exposure. So it's funny how things work, but exposure is just so important. You can be performing well, you can have a good professional image, but at the end of the day, exposure or being in the right place, knowing the right people, it's just a bit of luck, I guess. Ultimately, because sometimes you're stuck in a geographical location where you get less exposure, and you might be performing incredibly well, but you might be less top of mind to the people that are making the decisions, right? So there's a component of luck, or maybe you have to force a bit of your exposure, but that is key in getting good opportunities, and obviously not making dumb decisions along the way that put you in a negative spot
So
on.
that's interesting. Yeah, you were obviously you were good at what you were doing, but you were in a geographical location where it was easier for you to get noticed. I wonder if kind of having that perspective, folks are listening and they're like, well, I'm in a place where I don't really have the opportunity to get noticed in that same way. Any suggestions for folks on how to force that exposure?
100%. Yeah, you just have to be vocal. You have to be vocal because now in my position, we're constantly thinking, okay, we need talent. We love to promote within. Who do we have top of mind? And inevitably you're going to go to the people that you're closest to, you're thinking of, you're spending more time with. So if you're not in one of those locations where you're automatically spending time with the decision makers, make that time, make those trips to the corporate office. In our industry, especially with hotels out there, we have hotels all over the field, primarily in the west of the country. And so if you are further away from the corporate office, make sure you are heard. Make sure you make your trips to the corporate office. Find excuses to get exposure to the right leaders. Because ultimately, I'm not sure if it's 100% fair, but it does happen that way. It's the top of mindness that, can get you to the right place. Of course, if you're performing always, right? That's an expectation. But if you're performing, you have to expose yourself. So put yourself out there with the decision makers.
Yeah. So you clearly had a lot of opportunities to learn as you were rising through the ranks there. I'm sure you could, spend days kind of going through the lessons that you picked up. But if you were to single out one big learning occasion, one big lesson that you pulled away from your time there, what would that be?
With AC hotels, you'd say? AC hotels was an unbelievable, crazy period because we were opening 12, 15 hotels a year. I think one lesson that I learned is it's all about reputation and both for the company and for you as an individual. You always want to do the right thing by people, and it is a very small industry. Even in the US, it's a very small industry. It's so easy to get references from people to reach out and find out somebody that's worked with somebody that's worked with that person. And so just don't burn any bridges, and the same thing for your company. Like if you at one point don't treat people right or a partner right or a client or whoever, it comes around so easily. So first, because that's human decency, right? Do the right thing and take care of people and treat people right. But also just selfishly, like you don't burn the bridges because people are going to find out and then it's not going to help you. So just always do the right thing. And long term, it plays out. The short term mentality won't really get you where you want to go long term.
So maybe some people who are a little bit conflicted and having a hard time doing the right thing all the time, sort of the warning message is, hey, even if you think somebody's not watching, or even if you think that, oh, that person could never have an influence on my career, if you're that person's just sort of wired to think selfishly, like you never know when that's going to come back around, when that karma is going to come back, huh?
Yeah, 100%. And then you realize later on in your career how so-and-so at one point said something nice about you that connected with somebody else. And then suddenly you have this new business or you have this new potential associate that you're trying to hire that has heard great things or whatever it is. You just never know. So, yeah, just be selfish in that regard. Like it's an investment in your own brand, if you want to call it, or your own reputation.
Yeah. If you need a selfish reason to do the right thing, that's the way to frame it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did the opportunity to join Azul come about?
So AC Hotels in Spain was acquired by Marriott. So now it's one of Marriott's brands, and it's been a successful launch for Marriott, both in the rest of Europe and the US. So I was offered the opportunity to come to work with Marriott in the US to launch AC and also work with some other brands eventually. So I did 8 years with Marriott. One of my roles was in franchise operations was to have the relationship with management companies like Azul. So what people don't realize sometimes in the hospitality space, the brands don't typically own the hotels. In some cases they do, but they're trying to go with more asset light strategies, most of the brands. So they don't typically own the hotels and they don't typically manage the hotels. Or again, some do, but those portfolios tend to be decreasing for most of the major brands. So then there's a
So it's more like a franchise kind of setup.
Exactly, 100%. So then some owners are also owner operators, but in some cases there's cases like us where we're a management company, right? And so strictly a third party management company. So we manage hotels for others, so for the brand and for the actual owner of the building. And so in my role with Marriott, I had the relationship with many of these management companies where I would help them operate successfully and also kind of hold them accountable for running great hotels for Marriott. One of those companies was Azul Hospitality. And I really respected the culture, the leaders, the portfolio they were building. So it was right after COVID or in between COVID that the opportunity came about. I was starting to consider actually going back to Europe with Marriott. But it was such a great opportunity to join Azul. I really respected them. I wouldn't have left for too many groups, and Azul was probably one of the very, very few. So great opportunity, knew the leaders and the culture, and just was a really good fit for me. So that's how it went. And I had been working kind of with them from the other side, from the Marriott side, for 8 years. So, we had really good relationships already established. So again, it's a small industry. Can't burn any bridges because you never know.
And so to understand a little bit more about, how the dynamics of these different relationships work, right? You've got the brand, like a Marriott. Sometimes they own and manage their own properties, but not as often. Sometimes they own a property and they'll hire a third-party company like Azul to manage it for them. And then other times there's another owner, somebody who's bought the franchise rights to that name. They're the ones who own the physical building and the land and et cetera, and they've done the development. And then they'll bring in a third-party company like Azul to run that for them, because this is really your area of expertise, right?
Exactly. And companies like Marriott really, really don't own pretty much any hotels at this point.
Okay.
They used to, but less and less. So they will only own something if they're strategically buying a certain hotel or a certain portfolio of hotels, but eventually they're going to sell it off, So, there's always an owner that typically is not the brand. And then there's the brand, and then there's us as operators. And so we work with the owner and the brands to run the best possible operation. You want to keep the brand happy that you're complying with the standards, you're respecting what the brand is about and how to perform and take care of the guest experience and the satisfaction. And at the same time, give a great return to the owners of the hotel. So that's kind of how our role is interjected in between.
And so you guys are brought in, and are you paid like a flat fee? Is it like a percentage of gross? Is it sort of a combination of the two?
Typically, there's a percentage of the gross revenues, and also typically an incentive based on profits, right? Because we are responsible for top line performance and also how it flows to the bottom line. So there's both components typically.
Okay. And then walk us through, we talked a little bit about it in the intro, but give us kind of more specifics, what it is that you guys do in terms of managing these hotels for folks.
Well, pretty much the whole operation. If you look at a profit and loss statement, everything kind of is our responsibility. So from hiring the staff and the talent and the leaders to making sure we're delivering the right guest experience at every level. So obviously in the rooms and the food and beverage operations, and then any other amenity that the hotel has, whether it has, a spa or obviously parking and resort fees. What are you offering to the guest, right? And then all the expenses accordingly. So, your sales and marketing teams and your IT and your maintenance of the building, because at the end of the day, you're also kind of protecting the building for the owner, right? These are multi-million-dollar assets. So all that, all the way to the bottom line, and then after that bottom line, there's an owner that has a relationship with some sort of lender that has typically lent them money to do the business, and so we have to make sure that our last bottom number helps them to pay the lender and get some profit out of it. So, but yeah, the whole show, the whole experience, and the associates are our associates. So we take care of them. We try to help them grow and promote and get trained and learn and that's what we do.
When you joined Azul, how many properties were under management?
I want to say probably low 30s.
Low 30s. And where are you today? How many?
We're at 50 hotels across the west of the country. primarily Marriott, Hilton, some Hyatts, some independents as well. And I think we're specializing. We do all brands, but we're specializing in the lifestyle brands that Marriott and Hilton have, or independent brands that have a uniqueness to them. So we do have some of the prototypical brands as well, but right now the brands have come out with these soft brands, Autograph with Marriott, Curio with Hilton, Tribute, Tapestry. They're brands where you can be kind of your own thing, your unique, independent feel of hotel, but you're still
The
plugged
standards
into.
aren't quite as boxed in, is what you're saying?
Exactly. It's
Okay.
more quality of standards, but you don't have to comply with a specific design of your room or the exact offering and food and beverage or things like that. So you can create your own thing, of course, in communication with the brands to make sure that it's the right quality. But you can be unique. It's kind of like creating your own independent hotel,
Oh, cool.
but you're still plugged into a Marriott engine, right? A booking engine, like a strong one like Marriott or Hilton. So it's really the best of both worlds. And we're doing a lot of those. And I think with a lot of success, because that's kind of what the guest is asking us now. It's more of an experience and a uniqueness.
Do you enjoy this because maybe the margins are better for you guys, or the creativity that you get to employ is better? I don't know.
Oh, it's the creativity. It's definitely a lot more work because you're having to reinvent the wheel every time. But the team is here super creative, and we all enjoy it a lot. So yeah, it's that excitement of like you're creating a whole new kind of independent hotel every time. And of course, there's learnings along the way and things that work or don't work, and then you can apply to a different one. But you're always trying to be innovative with a different design, a different concept, and so it's fun.
Give me an idea of some of the different dials that you turn when making one of these new sort of pseudo custom environments. Like, is it just like, I don't know, the color of the wallpaper, or paint a picture for me?
Everything from the branding, so the naming of the hotel, the brand that you're creating, what it stands. Are you focused on the local experience and some component of the local market that you're uh, putting into the whole guest experience? So the color of the wallpaper, the just what it looks like from a guest satisfaction standpoint, and then all the amenities. The biggest one probably is food and beverage, because you're deciding, okay, do we do a cool coffee concept? Do we do a full service, 3-meal restaurant? Do we have a rooftop bar? We've been very successful doing rooftop bars. What does it make sense to maximize each square footage of the asset to get the most profitability, but at the same time a great experience for the guests? So it's a long term, you're positioning the asset to be very successful for many, many years. You don't want to be trendy. So it's that balance between being innovative and original and a bit different, but also don't be trendy, because then that could be good for a few years, but then
you got to redo the whole thing.
Right. So
and that's
we like the blue suits where you can just change the tie and the shirt, but it's still a classic blue suit. That's what how we like to put it, to say, because that's more timeless.
So, I've talked to other folks in the hotel space. We're recording this the end of 2025. We had government shutdown, the economy's kind of, questionable for a lot of folks. So a lot of the folks, I'm not going to ask you for your numbers, but a lot of folks tell me that, hotel business overall has been down recently. Do you find that that's at all different in sort of the higher end hotels, that maybe the demand there has stayed up, or is there some fluctuation happening there too?
You're actually right. Exactly right. The luxury segment has done particularly well.
Okay.
Everything underneath, and the lower you go, once you get to the economy brands, they've struggled more and more. So for some reason, the consumer sentiment is affected, and people are traveling less. And I think it's the uncertainty. Everybody's kind of on the lookout to see, okay, what exactly is going on here? Because between government shutdowns, tariffs, it's just been a year of, it hasn't been a bad year. We've still grown slightly revenues, but at times not enough to offset the growing expenses. Expenses have at times been higher than the growth of revenue. So it's been not the best year. I wouldn't say it's been a recession kind of year, but it hasn't been the best. So 2026, we're hoping for some more stability. And you realize also interest rates are very impactful in our industry, because sometimes also what people don't realize is, interest rates, when you have when you're a hotel owner and you own the building, your loan, typically your interest rates the loans are much more short term. When you own a house, there can be a 30-year mortgage, right? And you might have a fixed interest rate. But in hotels, your loans are typically 5 years, or there's a reset every 6 months, or it's more variable. So when interest rates go much higher, it impacts hotels much more quickly than it would in your own house, right? So suddenly you see the stress of our clients, where what a good job looked like from a management standpoint and a financial performance standpoint, what a good job looked like, 4 years ago, does not get them to the place where they need to be right now. And so you can understand the stress, and you're trying to help them to just perform as best as we can, as efficiently as we can, to get them the biggest number to the bottom line, so they don't have that stress in the bottom.
Any like levers that you've been able to pull in that respect to help kind of squeeze out some extra percentage points?
Yeah, we like clustering. So once we're in a market and we have a few hotels, if we can share resources, sometimes it's even across clients. It's surprising, Anthony, how there's a lot of openness to that. And if you might have a competing hotel over there, which we happen to manage, and they're open to sharing a role. Maybe it's a controller, maybe it's a sales effort even, and or a general manager, and you share and you kind of spread out the cost a little bit to kind of write out just to reduce expenses at the end of the day. So obviously we're always trying to find new creative ways to drive revenues, but expenses, it can be very impactful. So if we can cluster markets when we have enough hotels in a market, that's a great way to reduce some expenses.
So you guys have been around a little bit. Obviously, you've got a great reputation in the space. You've got some clients that you work with regularly. I'm sure as they've got new projects, you guys are collaborating with them on that. If you're sitting down with a new prospective client, why do they ultimately choose Azul? What sets you guys apart?
I want to say, first of all, we have great talent. I would put our team against any team in the industry. There's been a lot of consolidation in the management space. So management companies buying each other or investing in each other, or capital investors taking a stake in it. And so there's a lot of focus for growth in a lot of our competitors. And I think at times that size is not really a competitive advantage, because at the end of the day, I mean, you might get the ability to purchase things a little cheaper, but we're already at that level with most of the vendors. You're already kind of in the higher tier of whatever discounts you're getting with our 50 hotel size. So I think size is not always better in a management company space. You want to be important to us, right? The moment you're at 150 hotels, the attention you might be able to give to your hotels is a little bit more diluted. Whereas we are extremely hands-on with our clients and with our hotels, and we're very close to every business. So I'm not saying we don't want to grow, but we'd rather grow very, very mindfully, and we don't want to be the biggest. Maybe we can add a few hotels here or there, but I think our size is kind of a sweet spot in that we have enough to have all the resources needed to support the hotels as best we can, but we're also extremely hands-on, because we don't, we're not diluting the focus because we have 300 hotels like some of our competitors who do a great job, but it's a bit of a different model, and they're very focused on growth and adding new hotels. We're typically adding hotels because our existing clients are growing their portfolios and we grow with them, but we're not typically adding too many new relationships.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you are adding a new relationship, what's sort of the checklist that you're looking for to make sure that you guys are aligned?
The biggest, most important thing is the cultural alignment with the client, with the sponsor, with the owner of the hotel. We've realized that we talk about it internally a lot. We'd rather do business or take on a deal with an excellent owner, even if the project might be, I don't want to say mediocre, but just, a medium project, than the opposite. A killer project with a mediocre owner is not going to be a good fit long term for us, because we're very protective of our culture, of how we treat people, and an owner can be disruptive to that if we're not culturally aligned. So that's probably the most important thing. And we've turned down a lot of deals because we could just sense that that cultural alignment wasn't really there. So I would say that's the biggest thing. And then of course, an exciting project with a great brand, a great unique market location, and anywhere where we can unlock value also, because not to say that we won't take on, I don't know, the opportunity to manage a courtyard or a Hampton in a secondary market, but typically what we were talking about before, we like to add value. So if we can take over management of a hotel because we think, hey, let's reposition this, let's change the brand, or let's add a new food and beverage concept, or how can we maximize the value of the asset here? That's what really gets us excited. And so that's probably the things that we look at the most: quality of the sponsor, and then the ability to add value.
Yeah, and Alvaro, you've mentioned multiple times in our conversation the importance of the culture that you guys have there and the alignment that you want to have with your clients. 'Cause you guys, your philosophy is, I think awesome, but a little bit different in that you prioritize doing the right thing over just pure economic gain. And as I say that, it's words and you're nodding your head and you're like, oh, yeah, absolutely. That's what we believe. But I wonder if you can share a specific instance where that principle over profit came into play and just kind of help illustrate that point for folks.
Yeah. Well, the biggest way we show it, and it's part of like protecting our team, is when there hasn't been a cultural alignment with past. I think right now our portfolio is in a great place from the client pool that we have. We have very collaborative clients. Of course, they hold us accountable to deliver results, but it's collaborative, it's respectful. When that hasn't happened in the past, we were aware of it, but it's a very hard decision to say, do we walk away from this business? Do we walk away from managing these hotels? Because yeah, it's a fee. It's revenues for us as a management company walking away from deals, right? And that affects how many resources we can have at the corporate office. It affects the bonuses that we can pay out to our teams. But ultimately, we know that it's the right thing to do. And so making those decisions has been tough, but clearly the right decision long term. So that's probably the more clear way where we've walked the talk of, okay, if we're saying we don't do business with with certain behaviors, then let's act on it. And even if it meant walking away from fees. So, and then also, with existing clients, if we know that they're stressed out and we can help by adjusting our fee or things like that, like we're gonna do that, if needed. Of course, we don't want to create that expectation all the time, but if we have to, we're very shoulder to shoulder with our clients. If they're successful, we're successful, and the same and vice versa. So that's probably the best way where we walk the talk of our culture, I think.
I like that. How does that, how do you, what's the question I'm trying to ask here? I want to understand how you keep that culture. So your organization, you're not enormous when it comes to, management companies, but pretty good size. You guys have got, a lot of properties under management. When you think about the hundreds of employees that are under your umbrella, and how do you think about hiring them, sort of filtering through that hiring process? Once you've got somebody good, how do you hold on to them? Like, what does that internal process kind of look and feel like?
Yeah. I think ultimately people, again, it goes back to the culture, but people, when they feel comfortable, they feel valued, they feel appreciated, they're loyal. Compensation is very important. Of course, we're all trying to grow our personal finances and just have to support our families and so on. But when people have a sense of belonging, when people, feel that they are important to the company, and we're in a size where we can still, everything's still to be invented or to be supported. So we always tell everybody, hey, any idea that you have, no matter your role, we'll embrace it, because we're all growing, we're all learning. And so if there's ideas that you've gotten from another management company or from thoughts that you have, like, let's bring it to the table. And I think people feel that that's a reality of how we like to treat people. We don't have yellers, we don't have screamers. It's a very flat organization. There's not much hierarchy. And there's not much egos either. And honestly, the same thing that we have talked about the clients with the culture alignment, we are very selective with who we bring in as leaders of our hotels. Because at the end of the day, Anthony, when you have a hotel 3 hour flight away from the corporate office, you can have a great culture here, but how does that trickle to that property that, you're only visiting X amount of times or so frequently, or, it comes down to who you hire to be the leaders of those properties. And because then that's they're going to be the ones hiring for that property, and so they have to really drink the Kool-Aid of this culture or be aligned with it naturally, and then kind of translate that to their hires and their training and the way they treat people. So it doesn't matter if you've been with a company for a long time or a short time. We won't allow people that don't align with that way of treating people. And it's not a crazy magic sauce. It's just treat people how you like to be treated, right? Like we always say, it's very simple, and that's what the expectation is. And we don't allow for things. When we've had incidents of people not aligning with that, we jump on it very quickly. It's like you're with your kids. If you look the other way the first time you see something, you're starting to allow a behavior that's just not gonna be okay with it. So
Yeah. Now, you yourself, you started out as a COO at Azul, and within just a couple of years, you moved into the CEO role. How did that transition take place?
So the founder of the company, Rick Manser, he was CEO president for since the start of the company, and he was looking to scale back. So I don't know when he brought me in as a COO. I don't know if he already had the intention in mind, but um, yeah, just again, luck, timing. He wanted to slow down a little bit, and when you come from operations, probably it's the easiest or the most apt path to go to CEO. Not always, right? You can come from finance or accounting, but operations, at the end of the day, we're operating hotels, so it's the closest thing to the business. So maybe because of that, um, it was the most natural path from a title standpoint for uh, but yeah, I mean, just being the right place at the right time, and there's incredible leaders here at the corporate office. So I feel very fortunate to have the role and help the team in whatever way I can to continue the success of the company.
What was the most challenging part about that transition for you?
I think at times believing in it, you get this imposter syndrome, but that's happened no matter when you promote. It always feels like you're pre-promoting, you're promoting too early. Every time in my career, it's felt that way. You kind of have to allow yourself to make mistakes and obviously believe in yourself, but at the same time not take yourself too seriously, and just be patient, because part of it is learning the path, right? So, and I'm still in that phase. I hope that I can be a great CEO, but I'm not there right now, most likely. So it's just, you got to be patient with yourself and not put too much pressure, because if you think you're the first day you're a CEO, you're going to be a great CEO, probably not realistic. So, and having, luckily, I've had leaders in Rick Mansur, the founder, who just doesn't micromanage you, lets you run with it, and they're like, hey, you know, own it, make mistakes, and just believe in it and be patient.
Wow. I talk with a lot of my guests about this idea of imposter syndrome. And, even people who have reached the pinnacle of their career continue to question themselves every day. Like, am I, almost like waiting for people to figure out that they're a fraud, that, like, I don't really know what I'm doing as much as everybody thinks that I do.
Yeah.
And so from your perspective, as you think about, the quick ascension that you've had in your career, and each time you rise into a new role, kind of doubting yourself and thinking, oh, I'm here too early, I'm not ready for this. Like, how do you work through that? Like, what's been a helpful process, or I don't know if you've got like a coach or a mentor, or like a book that you've read that's been like helpful and sort of like giving you that confidence to stay on track and that you got this?
Um, I'm gonna say I don't know that there's one thing. Just again, putting things in perspective and saying, okay, these people are trusting me. Maybe I'm not that bad, or maybe I gotta believe in it. But I really like Charlie Munger. You know Charlie Munger, the Warren Buffett's longtime partner, because he puts things so bluntly and simply. And it's all about, yeah, I'm just, I don't try to be the smartest or the most intelligent. I try to just make less dumb decisions or less, because you read so many, when you're trying to be a good leader, you read so many books or quotes or things of incredible CEOs out there and people that are, I wake up at 4 in the morning and I work out and then I do my meditation and then I do all these things and then and then they're giving these incredible speeches and they do, and it can come across really complex, and there's incredibly brilliant people out there that are doing incredible things, right? And if you're constantly benchmarking on that, you're probably never going to win, right? So you got to take those readings or those lessons with a grain of salt a little bit. Say, okay, if I can get a learning here or there, I get it, but I don't have to aspire to be, the best CEO in the world or the most intelligent. And Charlie Munger always puts it in a very simple way. Hey, just don't make dumb mistakes. Just don't make decisions. Just don't fall for envy or things like that that are, that sometimes hold people. There's so many personality traits that hold people back, and they might be very intelligent. They might be brilliant and technically very apt, and then there's something in their personality that doesn't click well. So just be a stable, emotionally stable human being and listen to people, and I think that's gotten me somewhat success so far. So
Yeah, I like that. Okay, this is the time in the show where I ask my favorite question, because we've talked about big meteoric rise, lots of success that's being experienced. But everybody who's, found their way to some level of success has also had some level of hardship and learned from some of that hardship too. Alvaro, what's something really challenging that you've had to overcome in your life, and how did you get through that?
I always think of the year 2009, 10. I had everything comes in threes at times, and I had just gotten married and suddenly was finding myself with a divorce that I absolutely did not expect. Luckily, no kids involved, and from a traumatic standpoint, it was the least possible because there weren't too many attachments, but still, obviously, emotionally very painful. And then at the same time, my dad was diagnosed cancer, lymphoma, and maybe the least of the important things. But I like playing soccer. I tore my ACL, so I was going through surgery and on crutches and all that. So, and that all happened in the span of 3 months. So you're emotionally affected by a divorce. You're physically affected by a ACL tear and surgery and all that and recovery. And then my dad at the same time is starting. And first there's the uncertainty of the diagnosis, like what is this? Because it takes a little bit of time to figure it out. First it was, oh, my back hurts, and then it's something more, and then oh, wait a second, this could be something worse. And then a couple of misdiagnoses at the beginning where it seemed like it was even worse than it eventually was, which was still pretty tough. So he went through chemo and radio for a whole year. And luckily, he made it, and he's somewhat reasonably healthy. What, 11 or 15 years later? So I can't, now you look back and you're very pleased with the results, and it's just a path of what had to happen and the path of life. But when you're in it, right, you're experiencing these two or three things at the same time, and it's just so easy to get down and to think, okay, it's the end of the world, right? And nothing's going my way. What else can happen now? And sometimes in life it just happens. It comes a few things together at the same time, or one really bad thing that happens, and you just have to remember pretty much everything is temporary, except death. Everything else is temporary, and so you just have to kind of write it out and not get down and be patient and just stick to your own values, and things come around, and then you can get a good cycle where things are happening that are really positive. But at the time, it might feel like it's the end of the world. It might feel like my whole world is falling apart and I don't deserve it, and this is unfair, and there's so many circumstances that we can't control. that you just have to know that sometimes things are going to happen that are not ideal, and you just have to ride it out, and pretty much everything is temporary, and you can get through it if you're just a little patient and yeah, stick through it. So
I'm curious how you got through it because, when somebody goes through one of those difficult things, say, the ACL tear, and you couched it as being maybe the least important of the three, but let's be honest here, you had aspirations to play professional soccer. And that was a big part of your identity. And so now the ACL tear seemingly robs you of that. It takes away a part of your identity. So you got something you want to say.
Yeah, reality had already robbed me of that because
this was post.
This was post. Yeah, so
Okay.
this was when I was already 30. So I probably still believed I could make it. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
But
even still,
yeah, it was later. But even still, absolutely, I still played and was active and wanted to continue, playing and enjoying it. And so it was my time for myself, your enjoyment with your friends and everything. And so taking that away, mentally doesn't help you, that you just can't be out there playing, and you have to deal with the recovery and going to PT every day and crutches and all that discomfort. So, yeah, I don't know. It helps obviously when you've been lucky to be having, a good childhood and raised by good parents, and you're just emotionally in a good place where, hey, you can just dig deep and be patient but yeah, and having great friends and family, that obviously is key. And talk a lot to people, even if you bore them, even if you're annoying, but just talk it through, and people give you their perspective. And many times if they don't give you their perspective, but you're kind of venting out, and getting it out of your system, and it feels better to just share what you're going through with people, and then hopefully they can give you some good advice or not, but just them listening to you and feeling for you a little bit, and it kind of helps to get through it. You can't, if you're trying to do it all yourself and take it in and just suck it up and don't share it, like that's gonna come out in bad ways at some point, whether it's with
it just eats you up inside.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if you think you're being the tough soldier and you're putting on a good face today, there is going to be a point in the future where that pops up in a way that is going to shock the heck out of you, and not in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you hear people that tell you their stories of things they've gone through, and then you can relate, and then you see them doing better later in life, and they're telling you about something that happened kind of like today, and you're like, okay, well, wait a second, that you can get through this, you can get past it, you can get back to normal or much better, or so yeah, just sharing. I think sharing is key.
Yeah, and it's great that you had a group of friends that you could rely on like that, because you're going through the ACL thing, and then the people that you might normally go to for support, well, now you're going through divorce, right? That's gut-wrenching, and your father, he's got this huge health concern, so probably another place that you would typically go, and now you need to find another outlet for all of that stuff to unload. And it sounds like you had a great support system behind you, great friend network.
I did. This was back in Spain at the time, and I had a great friend, great base of friends there, and some other family. But there were two guys from college that flew in to just out of very short notice. They just flew in, kind of surprised me, and spent a week with me and stuff. So I was just very lucky to have those kind of friendships, and those things stick with you for life. When people do that for you when you're in a period that's not the best, and they just support you.
Yeah. As you think back on that time, Alvaro, do you find any purpose in it?
I definitely think that I feel like if you can get past situations like that, then everything else becomes a bit easier. I think it's you look back and you're like, okay, well, if we got through that, it just gives you, maturity and strength to overcome anything. So now the smaller things don't become as important anymore, and you can just putting things in perspective. Once you've gone through tough things like that, everything seems a little lighter, and it's not that bad.
So it's given you a new perspective. Things that would have been really bad before, now they pale in comparison to some of the really big life challenges that you've already overcome.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You just become a little stronger once you go through tough times, right?
Yeah. Okay. So as we look forward to the future of Azul, what can we expect? What's some things that you're excited about?
So we're working on really great projects for us. We've recently been approved to operate JW Hotels, which is a luxury brand that we weren't in that space before. So we have that excitement in front of us with a new couple of new projects in that space, and yeah, I think stability would be great. We've opened 17 hotels in the last 2 years, so 26 will be we have less openings. They're mostly coming later in 27 and later, so it's a good time to kind of get a breather and make sure that we're really performing well for our clients. It's going to be 26. I think is going to be not the healthiest from a macroeconomic standpoint. So I'm hoping that we just become really creative and we just perform for our existing clients. We focus on that and I don't care if we don't grow much next year because I know we have growth coming later on, but just really make sure that our processes are in great place and our SOPs and our performance is there because we've taken on a lot the last few years. Our existing clients have been growing, and so we're growing with them, but it's been a lot. So yeah, just stability.
Take a deep breath, kind of turn the dials, just kind of really hone in on those efficiencies this year.
That's right. That's our goal for 26.
I got to ask, everybody talks about AI. You guys using it in any fun and creative ways?
Well, I'll tell you something that's becoming very apparent. That's exciting, but we got to figure it out, right? When you think of AI, I think that everybody talks about robots and things, but right now the way it's impacted our business the most is with revenue management and how you sell, how you price for this, the system to be pricing automatically, things like that, and marketing and how you sell. What's really interesting is outside of the direct channels, like if you go to Marriott.com or Hilton.com, you're going and booking a room directly. Otherwise, typically, unless you're a corporate client or a group that you're getting a quote, but otherwise, if you're a leisure client, which is the biggest segment is leisure for the most part, you might be going to one of the so-called OTAs, so Expedia or Booking.com or one of those sites. And that's how typically people have looked for hotels. Or you go and Google search and you say, okay, I'm going to this destination. What's a closest hotel to this place? More and more now, people are doing their searches on some sort of AI platform, ChatGPT or one of those. And typically they're starting to say, okay, I want to be close to this, but I also want to do this activity. And my price point's so and so, and I'm going with my family or I'm going with my kids, and so it's becoming a whole new way of searching for hotels, and more it's going to be that way. So now those platforms, AI platforms, are figuring out, okay, how do we monetize this, or can you book through ChatGPT? You're going to be able to book eventually a room through it, or not? What does that look like? Who's paying any sort of commissions? What are Expedia and Booking going to do as the major OTAs? But there's many others, right? But what are they going to do? Because now more and more people are going to go to these search engines. And then how do we market ourselves to be as attractive as possible in a completely different platform? Because the way we set up our hotels to be attractive on Marriott.com and Expedia.com and Booking.com, is very, very different to how AI works. And so the language is very different. So now people might be searching for a whole trip that I'm going to somewhere in Europe here over Christmas. And it's okay, I'm taking my 2 kids and we want to do these kind of activities and we want to be close to here. We want to see some sightseeing, but also some kids activities. And we want to eat in these kind of local restaurants. And then it's going to craft it all out for us. And then of course you can adjust it, but it's just a completely different way of traveling and planning your trips, right? So for figuring that out, I think for us is very important to be ahead of it for our clients to have their hotels be as searchable and attractive as possible in a completely new platform language. So Maybe that was not the most exciting way of AI, but it's
No,
key,
I think it's super
for what we're
interesting
doing.
because I have similar conversations with folks across a wide variety of industries where, right, like they had learned sort of the game, I'm going to call it using air quotes, of how do we get ranked highly in Google search results, as
Exactly.
well as, how do we make use of Google Ads, different social platforms. And now there's this whole new thing, right? AI, where people are going in and instead of searching in Google, they're searching there. And how do you get your result to show up now at the top of AI? Like people had, sort of a formula they would follow for that on Google. And now we're trying to figure that out on a whole new platform. And
Exactly.
as you say, as you hint at, like there are more capabilities coming. And so at some point, you have to expect that you'll have the ability to book directly through the AI. And you guys want to be right there, at the front edge of that, ready for that. Do you
Hmm.
think that
Exactly.
is something that we're going to see in 2026?
Probably late 26. Yeah,
Okay.
because I know of a lot of different people working in that direction where, other companies that are helping you get to be the most sellable in there, and they're already have been working on that for a while. So yeah, I think late 26 it'll happen, and it's going to be interesting to see how the Expedias and bookings reinvent themselves, and the Marriott and Hilton, and who's talking to the OTAs, because maybe they can use their own platforms in there. So you go through their platforms to book. So anyway, it's going to be interesting, uh, see what happens. So,
For sure. Alvaro, what's your superpower?
um, I think one is emotional stability. You see some people that just get very emotional with things that happen and affects their performance or affects their approach to something because they take things very personally. And most of the time, people have their own thing they're going through or whatever, and it's not personal towards you. And just being able to put that aside and just have that stability, I think that might sound like something pretty simple, but I consider that a superpower when you look at how certain people react to things, and and I think being ethically impeccable, I'm proud to say that that's, some a good attribute that I've had all my life, and I don't sound arrogant when I say it because it's just doing the right thing. It's one of our pillars at Azul is doing the right thing, and personally, I've always felt that way. And again, as we started talking about it, it comes around. So it's even a selfish way to handle yourself. It's just do the right thing, take care of people, be a nice person. That that's a superpower, I think.
I agree 100%. And we were talking before we went live. I know you've got at least one son, younger, right? Or
Two
more than
boys,
one?
two boys,
Two
two
boys.
boys,
Okay.
eight
And
and
their
five,
ages?
8 and 5.
8 and 5. Okay. So I've got 11 and 9. As you think about that superpower that you have, how do you think about teaching that to your children?
Yeah. More and more I realize that the words, when you see those movies or something, it's, oh, my dad had this quote or my dad had this saying. I don't believe so much in that, those impactful sentences or phrases. At the end of the day, it's just replicating how you behave at home and leading by example. That's what they're going to see every day. That's what's going to ingrain in their brains more than any particular quote, right? How you behave every day with them and with other people. They're watching and they're looking at how you interact with whoever. So to me, that's way more impactful because they're seeing it every day than any quote or anything. So just try to, and of course, when you're in front of them, you put the extra effort to try to be behave a certain way and
The
make
best
sure that
version
because
of
they're watching.
yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And it's not easy because, there's times where there's a lot of stress at home with activities and, time crunches and things like that. So it's not easy. But just always going back to thinking that way because they're watching, they're watching and learning, and that's creating their what's ingrained in them for the rest of their lives probably.
Aside from soccer, what's your favorite thing to do outside of work?
Now it's all family, so just playing with the kids. We go in the room and play for hours, and that's the funnest thing. So yeah, soccer and family.
I like it. Just one more question for you today, Alvaro. But before I ask it, I want to do 3 quick things. First of all, anybody who wants to get in touch with our guest today, we will have both his LinkedIn profile link and his email address in the show notes, which you can find on our website, inspiredstoriespodcast.com. Their company, azulhg.com, azulhg.com. And as a reminder, if you want to get more hotel employees access to benefits that aren't going to hurt them financially and carries a financial upside for the company, reach out to us at addbackbenefits.com. Finally, if you'll take just a moment, pause, leave us a comment or review on your favorite podcast app. You'll hold a special place in my heart forever. Thank you very much. So last question for you, Alvaro. A year from now, you and I reconnect and you are celebrating something big. Very excited. What's that big thing you hope to be celebrating 1 year from today?
Ooh. It's been such a busy few years. So from a personal standpoint, just that internal peace with family and everybody healthy and continued, growth for the kids and just a healthy environment for them. That'd be great. And then professionally, what we were mentioning before, just that stability and just a good performance year. I think it's going to be somewhat challenging in the sense of a little bit of a softer market, and just, performing for our clients the best we can. I don't care if we don't grow, but just have a good performance year and helping them out with some of these rocks they need to move this next year to be as successful as possible. So just, nothing big, just stability.
Keep it
on both
steady.
fronts. Yeah, that's right.
Like it. Alvaro Fraile from Azul Hospitality Group, I want to be the first to thank you for sharing both your time and your story with us today. I really appreciate it.
Anthony, what a pleasure and honor. And thank you for what you do. I think this is a great initiative, and I hope people really appreciate it and enjoy it. And hopefully this one also does for them. So thank you.
Thank you for those kind words. Folks, that's a wrap on another episode of the Inspired Stories podcast. Thanks for learning with us today.